Gimmicks and all, could this have possibly been the best All-Star race we've seen in the past few years? Well, before we get into the video, I need a proper introduction. Let's take it to Buddy from the track.
Welcome to Wilkes by God County for NASCAR's All-Star Race. North Wilkesboro Speedway is NASCAR's own field of dreams nestled in the backcountry of North Carolina. It's the hottest ticket on the schedule, and the Moonshine Steel Trophy is quickly becoming one of the hottest commodities in Cup Series racing. From the drop of the green flag and even after the drop of the yellow flag, thanks Mikey, we saw an absolute barn burner. $1 Million Bill, how about $1 Million Bell? Tonight's winner proclaimed that this is the best short track in NASCAR racing. Is he right? Above the yellow line from North Wilkesboro Speedway, and the All-Star Race starts right now.
Now that's how you do an intro. Like he said, let's get started. Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line on the ATYL Media channel, where we talk about NASCAR all the time. And for the All-Star Race, admittedly, right off the bat, it was actually pretty good. I've thought about the past two races that we've had here and how disappointed, not only myself, but I know you guys have been in the product that we got. But this year just felt a little different from what we saw on track to just the atmosphere in general. And this all started with the AllStar Open. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised by the action that we got in the AllStar Open and how it wasn't completely chaotic. Now, Shane Van Gisbergen had the pole for this race and he dominated the first half. At one point, he even said, hey, should I slow down a little bit so I can save my equipment? This was at one point during the race before that halfway point where SVG was one of the first cars on pit road to take 4 tires, and that's ultimately what did in that 88 car's chances of winning the race, while those in front of him took 2 tires, namely Carson Hocevar, and Carson Hocevar got off pit road first and won the All-Star Open. I know the 71 car of Michael McDowell ended up winning that pit crew challenge, so congrats to them. But another big win for Aspire Motorsports pit crew this weekend with Carson Hocevar's getting him out on track first during that pit stop cycle, and then of course having him win that race. Also advancing their way into the All-Star event was John Hunter Nemechek, finishing the All-Star Open in second. And then for the 3rd year in a row, this should not surprise anybody, Noah Gragson won the fan vote. He is so likable to the fans. He is so relatable. So again, doesn't surprise me that he won the fan vote. So those 3 drivers, Hocevar, Nemechek, and Gragson, advanced into the All-Star race. And the sentiment stays the same. The All-Star Open was great. Lack of chaos, I would say, and just the product was able to shine, which is shocking to say about a short track race in the Gen 7 era, but the product shined, and the same went for the All-Star race. Brad Keselowski had the pole for the All-Star race, a great sign of things that would hopefully come for that 6 team. And then, unfortunately, a little later in the event, Brad Keselowski got loose, landed into the wall, and his day was done. Otherwise, he had a very strong number 6 car, and that RFK team just keeps getting closer and closer to putting something together. And just, I swear to God, Brad is cursed. I think he and his team are cursed this year. But when you saw Brad Keselowski on track, the guy that was always contending for the lead with him or getting the lead from Brad was Joey Logano. It was shades of 2024 for that 22 car at North Wilkesboro. They just have this track figured out. Joey Logano has this track figured out, and all was smooth sailing for Joey, who had dominated the race until the promoter's caution came out. The thing that we knew would throw a wrench into things threw a wrench into things for Joey Logano. And this promoter's caution flew on lap 216, and what I liked about this caution is that Marcus Smith was not the one that waved the flag. He gave this honor to Michael Waltrip. Just because of all the controversy around it, I think this was the right thing to do. And I say this, but then Michael Waltrip dropped the flag on the racetrack, just like he dropped the taco on Denny Hamlin's car years ago. He had one drop, but I digress. The caution flag flew, and this was a decision time for these teams. Do I stay out and try to keep the track position I have and hope that's what works? Or do I go to pit road and get either 2 or 4 tires? We know throughout this weekend, as we've seen from all the events, tires matter here at North Wilkesboro. So my thought is everyone's going to go in for tires, right? I was wrong. 5 drivers decided to stay out on track, and notably, 3 of them were Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Ross Chastain. So those 3 drivers in particular were banking on track position, drivers that had been pretty good throughout the entire event. The rest of the field went in to get 4 tires, or if you're like Christopher Bell, you went in to get 2 tires. And Christopher Bell had been a contender this entire event, so knowing that he had fresh tires, knowing that he'd been knocking on the door of trying to get the lead, you knew this was ultimately likely going to be the call for the win. And what it came down to was a pass on the 22 with around 9-ish laps to go, and Christopher Bell was smooth sailing. He was your $1 million winner at North Wilkesboro. This, of course, is the 4th win for Christopher Bell this season. Not a points-paying win, but nonetheless a pretty big payday for that team. We've also seen in the past few years, not every year, but the All-Star race winner tends to go on to win the championship. Like I said, not every single year, but it's been a recent trend. So could this mean good things to come for Christopher Bell, who has been knocking on the door of a championship for the past few seasons? I don't know. He's made it to the championship for more times in the past 4 years than most other drivers. So maybe a good sign of things to come, like I've talked about earlier, with every single one of Christopher Bell's wins. This 20 team is impressive. And I think they're going to continue to be impressive as the season goes on. But Christopher Bell, your $1 million winner. Of course, that means Joey Logano finished in that 2nd position, and he said he thought he could hold off the 20 car, but the 20 had a much better restart. He just cleared too many cars too fast, and Joey just couldn't get away in time. It took him maybe 6 or 7 laps to get his car rolling again, is what Joey said in his post-race interview. He also said, Marcus Smith and I are not seeing eye to eye. Pretty upset about the promoter's caution, rightfully so, as it did affect him. He's not a fan of gimmicks, but again, he's understandably upset because this caution mainly impacted him. In 3rd place, Ross Chastain, a great result for Trackhouse yet again provided by Ross. In 4th, you had Alex Bowman. 5th, Chase Elliott. 6th, William Byron. 7th, Tyler Reddick. 8th, Kyle Busch. 9th, Chase Briscoe. And 10th, Chris Buescher. So at least one RFK car got a good result. I should mention for the All-Star Open, Ryan Preece was gonna be set to advance his way in to the main event. Unfortunately, though, during one of the last cautions during the choose cone, Ryan Preece could not see the choose cone on the track, or I guess just the painted triangle on the track, ran over it. And of course, that is a choose violation that sent Ryan Preece to the back of the pack after the race. He was pretty upset about it. He said, a rule is a rule. I get it, but I couldn't see it. So we talked about it a little bit on the ATYL Media Instagram page, kind of compiled a story there, but could have been a good result for Ryan Preece, but that mistake definitely costed him. So good to see at least that 17 car at RFK got a decent result to kind of round out what could have been a great weekend for RFK. But those are your results, at least your top 10. Now going on to the big question of the evening, and the question that we've talked about the past 2 All-Star races at North Wilkesboro, it's, does North Wilkesboro deserve a points-paying race for the Cup Series? And when I think about this question, I think about 2 things. I think about fan turnout, which is never an issue for North Wilkesboro. It is in a racing town. People already love racing. They're excited about it. You don't have to convince them to go to the racetrack. I also think about how this track, at least how it's been scheduled the past 2 years, has gone up against the Coca-Cola 600. You're already in North Carolina. It's a scheduling win. 2 weeks where you're in your home state. These drivers get to wake up in their own beds. It's refreshing. It's considering we travel, 38 weekends out of the year, essentially. So overall, I think the fan turnout and just the nice break it provides in the schedule is promising already. Then you go to the product itself, and the past 2 races were not great, not gonna lie. And I'm like, I do not think this track has earned 2 dates based off of the product and the fact that it just kind of sucked the past 2 years. But this race was different. It felt different. The product just somehow shined. Again, other short track races we've had this season just have not been it. This race, though, was pretty darn good. It had the most lead changes of any All-Star event. Now, granted, that stat is a little skewed because this was a bit of a longer All-Star race than we'd had in the past, but it shows some signs of progress, at least for our short track package, and some signs of progress for our All-Star races over the past few seasons. So considering this was one of the best All-Star races we've had in quite some time, I would say Yeah, I think the product that we saw has granted North Wilkesboro a points-paying race, and I will say I think the product would have been fine regardless of a promoter's caution. Again, I don't think that we needed it, wasn't a fan of when it was announced, but I think regardless, Christopher Bell would have likely gotten to Joey Logano. His car was that good, but I think everything kind of spoke for itself here. I would love to see North Wilkesboro get a date on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. The question is, it's got to take out another track on the schedule. So what track are we replacing? And my buddy Ben Branscombe had this idea. I think he maybe heard some collective thoughts from drivers too and just kind of compiled them into this idea. Bristol would lose its spring date. I love Bristol. You all know I love Bristol, but nobody's showing up to that race. The product is not great. We already talked about traveling to Bristol is expensive as crap. So I think maybe if North Wilkesboro replaced Bristol, that could be the solution. And then Wilkesboro gets that points paying race for Cup and maybe Xfinity as well. That's something I'd like to see. And then Charlotte gets the All-Star race back. So we move the All-Star event back to Charlotte, and that bumps right against the 600 race, which I personally love being somebody from North Carolina. So I'm a little biased there, but I also think it's a lot to ask your fans to get tickets to a race that is at the same track back to back. That's a lot on their wallets, but what am I saying too? Because North Wilkesboro is also in North Carolina, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think that could be the best scheduling solution going forward, depending on what we're wanting to use the All-Star race for. Do we want to use it to revive another short track? Then we bring it somewhere else. Or is that what's going to be the event at the Clash? Is that what we're using for the Clash to revive some of these tracks or to try different markets? Again, it goes back to the identity of the All-Star race versus the Clash. What do we want each to be, and can we make them distinct? But I think this scheduling kind of format here that's proposed by my buddy Ben Branscombe, I actually prefer it. I'm really looking forward to seeing that 2026 schedule and what that's going to mean for the fan base next year. So my race rating presented by Happy Hour Racing here, I feel like there's no explanation needed. I pretty much laid out my argument plain and clean. Is this going to sound wild? And I could be way overhyping this, but I'm going to give it an 80%. I think we've been treated to such just upsetting racing from our short tracks with this Gen 7 car over the past, I guess, 2 seasons. I'm going to say the issues really came to a head last year with the short track package, that this was just refreshing. It was fun. Yes, it is not a points paying race, but it was still really good. So I'm going to give North Wilkesboro an 80%, absolutely above the yellow line. But what did you think of this race? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, we are closing out this episode of Above the Yellow Line. Also closing out this portion of Fox's broadcast for the NASCAR events. We're moving to Prime and TNT for their 10-race broadcasting stint. Prime starts it off with the Coca-Cola 600 for 5 races. Then we go into the TNT portion for another 5 races. So yeah, Fox is done for the season, and we move forward, and we're moving forward here to make sure to check us out at AboveTheYellowLine.com to check out all of our partners and all of our content. And if you're gonna be at the 600, say hi. I'll be there for most of the race weekend, so hopefully I get to meet a lot of you there, but it should be a great weekend of racing. The Coca-Cola 600 has produced some of the most phenomenal racing that we've seen at the intermediate tracks in the past few years. 2022, quite honestly, was my favorite race I'd ever seen in person, and one of my favorite races I had seen ever in NASCAR. I don't know if that's good or bad, but the 2022 race was phenomenal. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed